draining all the water out of their tank for this. Um, you can see how tired they looked on the cover. Um, they looked much older than they actually were. But I mean, it's got great stuff on there. Long and Winding Road, Get Back. I've Got a Feeling. Just really, really good stuff. I do like this album. I reach for it from time to time. And as I do with Let It Be Naked as well, just to hear the subtle differences. All right, let me see. Um, Beatles For Sale. This is next on my list, and I really associate this with a time in my life when I purchased this album. I was heading to the beach, and I knew that I wanted this album in my collection, so I really associate this with going to the beach. So it's more of a sentimental album in terms of why it's so high on my list. A lot of people put it lower because it's a lot of covers, and it was popped out right after a hard day's night, and they were exhausted. They were trying to get an album for the Christmas market, and it's still got some good stuff on there. I don't have a lot to say about it. It's just a sentimental album. I'll associate it with the beach. Alright, next is 1966's Revolver. This was really when the Beatles went full experimental with Tomorrow Never Knows, which was the first song recorded for the album, last song on the track listing. This is also the first album that has more than 2 songs by George Harrison on it. Actually, a George Harrison opener with Taxman and a lead guitar from Paul McCartney on that track. So it's, you hear the song, you think, oh, George killing that guitar, when in fact it was McCartney knocking it out. This also has Yellow Submarine on it for the less informed Beatles fans. So if you like Yellow Submarine, this is the album with it. And actually, I mentioned earlier time, let me get that glare. Klaus Vormann, the illustrator of the cover for this, did the Dirty Knobs album cover with Mike Campbell. So he, from 1966 to 2020, he's still pumping out art. So I think that's really neat. And of course, he played bass on a lot of projects by the solo Beatles. I won't get into all that, but an all-around talented fella. All right, this is my number 4 favorite Beatles album. So another surprise, Magical Mystery Tour. And I remember as a kid looking at this cover and thinking, why would anybody ever buy this? I mean, that's just psychedelic, drugs, all that stuff. But really, it's really not. I mean, obviously the film was under a lot of substances, but and also originally this was not released as an actual album. It was released as half an album and then some soundtrack work. But it was released later on and actually became part of the Beatles canon later than when it first came out. So it's got songs like the title track Magical Mystery Tour, which McCartney opened a lot of his shows with in the 2000s. Your Mother Should Know is one of my favorites. I Am the Walrus, closed side A of the album. One of John's trippy masterpieces. And then they tacked on a few singles on the second half of the album: Hello Goodbye, Baby You're a Rich Man, Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields Forever, and then closing with All You Need Is Love. So it's full of hits on it, even though it wasn't originally intended to have all those hits on it. It's just a really good album. I mean, you have to think, this came out the same year as Sgt Pepper. So if you keep that in mind, the fact that they released Sgt Pepper months prior to this and then put this out, is just shows how much work they put into their records. So Magical Mystery Tour, number 4. Number 3, another Beatles soundtrack with 1965's Help. Again, another almost nostalgic feel to this because I know the song I Need You really when I first heard it, but I really started collecting, by the way, all these albums in 2009 when the 2009 remastered came out, and that's what all these CDs are, is that 2009 collection. So I went through a phase my freshman year of high school where I tore through the Beatles catalog over and over and over, and I was all things Beatles. So I can't remember which of these and I bought them out of order of how the Beatles came out. It really just came down to songs that I knew, and then working my way back to the songs that I didn't know for albums that I would buy. But Help, The Night Before is a great McCartney vocal. Act Naturally is a great Ringo cover of a Buck Owens tune. He still does that live, and actually re-recorded it with Buck Owens in the 80s. Had a funny video with that if you want to check that out. I've Just Seen a Face is a very countrified version of the Beatles. So I think that's another reason I like it, is that it has a little bit of that country tinge. It's got Act Naturally, I've Just Seen a Face. Another Girl is another one. Just a fun song to play, just acoustically, if you're into that sort of thing. It's got Ticket to Ride on it, which is just I think it's a great McCartney bass line on it. So check out Help. It's my number 3 favorite. And if you're doing any keeping track, if you know the Beatles at all, you'll know which 2 are left. So my number 2, Sgt. Pepper, the 1967, magnum opus, if you will, of the Beatles and their psychedelic regalia. We all know the pictures. What can be said about this that hasn't already been said? Conceived as a concept album. I don't consider it a concept album. I think most people with any kind of musical knowledge, don't consider this a concept album. The Beatles wanted to be another band. They had already quit touring at this point. Actually, the year prior, when they released Revolver, they wanted to do stuff that they couldn't perform live. They wanted to make it complex, and Sgt. Pepper was kind of that turning point of the mop top lads from Liverpool into masters of the studio. It's got possibly my favorite Beatles song, which is A Day in the Life, on it, the closer. It's just a great Lennon-McCartney composition, one of the true last great Lennon-McCartney collaborations. The opener, the Sgt. Pepper into With a Little Help from My Friends is brilliant. Getting Home, Getting Better, and then also Fixing a Hole. Fixing a Hole is another top Beatles album for me. When I'm 64, that's one that I actually performed back in 2010 for my grandparents' 50th. I did some minor writing changes to the lyrics to incorporate my family members into it, but my uncle and I played that for their 50th back when I was 15 or 16. So that holds a special place in my heart, that song. And so this whole album, this is one I reach for. If I'm in a Beatles rut, and I'm like, I want to listen to some Beatles, this is one of the first that I pull from my shelf, Sgt. Pepper. And last but not least, Abbey Road, 1969. Brilliant. There's not a flaw with this album. Some people say, why did they put, a Ringo song on there? Why did they put Octopus's Garden on there? Well, they really needed to. A lot of it, there were some heavy songs on here, some heavy rockers, and this is one of those albums. I don't have many moments in my life where I remember sitting, listening to music and thinking, I remember where I was when I heard that song. This is one of those that I do. Sitting in my room. I want to say this was my first true Beatles album, other than a greatest hits collection. I think the Beatles 1, I had it on tape, but this was the first one that I bought. It's the most worn out of all my other CDs that I've shown. But when I first listened to the second half medley, I was just knocked out, and I still am. If I go for a while without listening to it, and with there was a recent remastering of it last year that I bought as a late Christmas present last year. I bought a full box set of it, and to listen to it again remastered, it's just as exciting. Abbey Road, it's in my top albums ever, and I will be doing a video soon for my favorite albums of all time. So you can rest assured that that will be on it. I won't say where it'll be on that list, but it will be there. So anyway, looks like the video went a lot longer than I was hoping. But yeah, let me know your favorite Beatles albums. If my choices are wrong, even if they are, they're not, because it's my decision, it's my preference. So let me know what you think. Look forward to making some more for you. Take care.